David Reinhardt with Geek Inside Media, and I'm here with
Dave Gilbert of Wadjet Eye Games.
And what are we here to talk about today?
We're here to talk about anything you want, sir. But
Yay!
But mostly, I guess we're here to talk about Gemini Rue on iOS or anything else you want.
So yes, I'm excited because Gemini Rue is really the game that put you guys on the map. It's everyone has heard of Gemini Rue, even if you're not an adventure game fan, which is exciting because it is an excellent game, and now you can play it anywhere.
Yeah, well, mostly. Well, it's funny you say that, because the first time I ever really noticed that was I was on a train, and I had on my PC, I always have the wallpaper of whatever game I'm currently working on or just released or whatever, and I had Gemini Rue wallpaper up on my screen, and the guy next to me is like, "Oh, dude, I played that." I'm like, "Wow, that's never happened before." So yeah, it is the game that kind of put us on the map, and now you can play it on your phone. So literally, you could play it anywhere.
So where did the decision? Because I mean, it is PC games are adventure game. I mean, adventure games are PC games. Where did the decision come from to port it to iOS?
Well, mostly it was because it seemed to be where gaming was going, and we were not able to do it because we used the Adventure Game Studio engine to make it, and the problem with that engine was that it was not portable friendly. It was development on it started like way back in 1999, where everything was pretty much PC, and it was made by one guy, and he developed it and then expanded on it. It's a wonderful engine, but it was never meant to be portable friendly, and he stopped working on it, I think about a year or two ago, made it open source, and then finally the floodgates opened. Yay, we can actually try doing this. My wife is the programmer, she's the technical engineer type person. I can just use AGS, Adventure Game Studio, that's it. But she knows how to actually do stuff, and so she, after her last project, she decided, you know what, let's do this. So we took our best-selling game and we decided to port it to iOS, which is pretty much like the main mobile platform for games right now, to test the waters. If it does well, we port our other games to other platforms. If it doesn't do well, then it's obvious there's no market for it, so we won't, waste time and money porting anything else. So that was what prompted the decision, to answer your question, is that we suddenly were able to, because the engine went open source. It was a lot of work because it was not touchscreen friendly at all, or portable friendly, and then the game itself was not touchscreen friendly. It's taken Janet about 8 months to get it done, but it's done. It's coming out April 11th on the App Store.
Do you hear that, audience? Buy Gemini Rue on iOS so I can get an Android version. But here's a two-part question for you.
Sure.
What are the challenges, both like technically taking a PC, mouse and keyboard controlled game and getting it to iOS and making it work well, and what are the challenges of taking something like an adventure game, which is very narrative heavy, very like you're going to sit down and play for a couple hours, and putting that on a portable platform and making sure that it still flows well?
Right. I really wish Janet was here to answer a lot of these technical questions, because she did a lot of the heavy lifting. She did all the programming, all the futzing with graphics and things to make it more playable on a touchscreen. I just tweeted about it and talk about it in interviews. She is 7.5 months pregnant right now, so she can't be here, so I'm going to do my best and answer this question. I know one challenge we had was that it's made to be played with a mouse, and so you get a lot more precision with a mouse. You have a small hotspot, it's okay, you can just use the mouse to point at it. With a finger, when you just kind of used to, you just want to touch it and it works, and it has to feel responsive. You guys got to touch it and it works, and if the precision isn't right, then it just feels wrong. You get annoyed at it, like, what's going on here? So she spent a lot of time, and this is where she spent most of her time, porting it so it ran on the device was just a small part of it. Most of it was going through it, getting a lot of feedback about what hotspots were too small, what needed to be bigger, like get people with bigger fingers to play it, that kind of thing. The biggest change we made, I don't know if you're familiar with the PC version of Gemini Rue, but there were these combat sections where you had to play with the keyboard. It was like A and W to go in and out of cover, spacebar to fire, R button to reload, various things like that. Obviously, you can't do any of that stuff on a phone, on a touch screen. So we had to make a lot of buttons. And that was the challenge. It took a lot of going back and forth with the testers because, all right, we have buttons. Where do we put the buttons? First, we put them on the side, but there were some combat sections where the buttons would cover the characters. So that was no good. So we moved them to the other. So we thought, well, maybe we can make them dynamic. We moved them to the other side of the screen. That didn't work because people are left and right-handed, so that annoyed people. We put them at the top of the screen, but that meant that your hand is covering all the action and you couldn't see anything. Eventually, we just put them at the bottom of the screen, which is a bit annoying because you got to move your hands in an awkward way to press them, but it seemed to be the easiest, the most comfortable way of doing it, and it seems to be very intuitive. You got these big buttons, you know, a gun for shooting, things like that, a bunch of bullets for reloading, and it's very intuitive. It feels really good to play it on a touch screen. It feels very responsive. She did a lot of futzing with that. And I think there was a second part to your question.
Well,
I don't remember.
I will comment. Yes, it does. The combat does feel really good. I just suck at it. Like I was having issues not because it wasn't intuitive, but just because I timed it wrong and I got shot in the face. My bad. But then the second part did you find yourself struggling like making sure that the story still flowed? Because I guess you can do it on PC, but especially on like iOS, it's like, I can play this game for 10 minutes, or like I'm on the bus for 15 minutes. Like, how can I get in some time here? Like, what is the decision process? Making that port, like, for long games, like, do people want to play a long game on the phone?
Well, that's the question, and that's kind of that was my justification for not really putting a lot of time and money into porting it before, because I'm like, no one would want to play this game on a phone because it's like, Cutthroat or Angry Birds. It's like play for 5 minutes while waiting the bus just to kill some time. That was mostly justifying it to myself because it was impossible to do for us to do it, because we'd have to reprogram it from scratch in order to get it done. But when it became possible to do it, we thought about it. We're like, yeah, you know what? People are playing these games on the phone now, or especially on the iPad. The iPad changed a lot of things because a lot of people are more willing to play games on the iPad because it's more of you sit down at home and you play the game on the iPad and you relax. Phone is a little different. You can play it on the iPhone, so it's there if you want it, but I think I feel it's better to play it on the iPad. But you can certainly play it on the iPhone. It's the exact same game. And Janet had the phone, so she designed it to be played on the phone. I personally prefer the iPad. That's kind of our little a point of contention. We're curious to see which version sells better, the iPad version or the iPhone. iPad, I feel, is better suited to playing a game, but many more people have the iPhone. So it'll be interesting to see where things go. But in terms of we couldn't make any changes to the story to make it flow better on the phone, because that just, if it's good on the PC, if the story is good on the PC, the story is going to be good anywhere. So why change that? Why screw with that?
Very good point. Have you played any long-form adventure games on your iPad or iPhone, on the go?
Yeah, I played Walking Dead on the iPad on the train ride up here. So I love that game. I love a lot of Telltale stuff. I'm finding it very hard to play games on the PC now, because since I work from home, I'm working on that PC from home all day. When I want to relax and play a game, the last place I want to be is that same PC. So I really only play adventure games if they're available on the iPad now, because that's where I play my games now, or on consoles, because I just find it very hard to do that on the PC these days. So yeah, I've definitely played them on the iPad.
So like we said earlier, Gemini Rue is what put you on the map, but how have Resonance and Primordia been doing?
Really well. We have this nice kind of business model now, which we sort of fell into, where we have a mix of internal stuff like Blackwell and Shiva and other stuff, and games we publish like Resonance and Gemini Rue and Primordia and the new guys. So the great thing about the games we publish like Resonance and Gemini Rue is that the developers, they were kind of part-timers. They weren't full-timers like we are, but because of that, they were able to spend as much time as they wanted to make these games. Gemini Rue, I think, took the developer about 3 years to get it to a point where he gave it to us. Resonance, which I know you said you played, the developer was working on it for about 4 years while he had a wife, 2 kids, a full-time job, and he moved about 4 times over the course of making it, once across the planet, from Tokyo to, I think, Nebraska. So he had no time. So by the time we picked it up, he had all these assets in place but wasn't able to finish it. So the advantage there is that we're able to take this amazing game and help take it the rest of the way. It's something that we wouldn't have been able to do internally on our own. So it's this kind of nice thing that they couldn't have finished the game, at least not anytime soon, without our help, but we wouldn't have been able to make that type of game on our own. So it was this nice synergistic, is that the right word?
It works.
Great meshing of needs and things like that. So it's really worked out well for us as a company because it's enabled us to have some great games on our roster, helped us have money continually coming in, and because these games are so good, more people pay attention to us now, so that's worked out really well.
So with, April 11th, just about a little over 2 weeks, what's next for Wadjet?
Well, I'm working on the next Blackwell game. This year, so we have I mentioned how we have a child coming in about a month, so I'm kind of scaling back on the publishing because it's a lot of work, a lot of business stuff that requires a lot of time and energy, and I want to spend that time and energy on our child. So I am instead working on my own project again, because I don't have to answer to anyone except for myself. So I'm working on the 5th Blackwell game called Blackwell Epiphany, so that should hopefully be out in the fall. And if Gemini Rue does well, we are going to port, or I say Janet is going to be porting the rest of our games after she takes some maternity leave.
Excellent. So thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. This is a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Cheers.